Now, as you know, Frasier and Cheers obviously take place in the same universe, right? Because Frasier being a spin-off of Cheers. They're obviously connected, and everything that happens in one happens in the other. But then there was also, before Frasier, there was another spin-off from Cheers called The Tortellis.
We've spoken about it a couple of times.
We have, which was all about Carla's ex-husband and his new family. It didn't do very well, but it is there. So everything that happens in there and Frasier, they're all connected. And I started wondering, how far can I start to go? How many of these little connections and crossovers can I start to pull together? And then I started thinking about it, because we've also got Wings, right? Wings was written by some of the writers from Cheers. And then they had Frasier makes an appearance in Wings, and Norm and Cliff from Cheers, they make an appearance on Wings. So that's obviously connected as well. And then, actually, as we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, there is a great Frasier retrospective on YouTube. And I actually went back and double-checked by someone called Jose. And he recently did one on Scrubs as well, which was very interesting. And in that, he talks about how there was a crossover between Cheers and Saint Elsewhere, which were both set in Boston. So we've got more and more of these starting to tie in. Yeah. And I thought it'd be fun to go through some of them.
Little shows just creeping together.
Yeah.
Little guest crossovers. Yeah. How big is this universe, do you think?
It's pretty big.
It's a pretty big universe.
It gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
There's some, as we start to go right the way out, that are very strange connections that are very hard to explain. And might shock and surprise you, to be totally honest. But we'll get started with other shows that are connected to Frasier, right? So we've got, obviously, characters from Cheers. Frasier appeared in Wings, as I've mentioned. Frasier also made an appearance in an episode of The John Larroquette Show, where the main character in that is having some kind of romantic issues, and you see him, there's a scene when he's on the phone talking with a psychiatrist, and then suddenly, while on the phone, realizes that he's actually calling like a call-in show. And then it cuts to, I think they just used footage from an episode of Frasier. They didn't record anything new. But it cuts to Frasier and Roz in KACL. Right, and obviously he's then been sharing all of this stuff publicly over the air. And it's very funny. And actually, the John Larroquette Show also featured Gigi Rice, who played Regan.
Oh, how about that?
Frasier's on again, off again.
Off again, on again. Off again, off again.
Off, on, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was never on, really. Yeah. It was never on again. It was always off again. Yeah, played Regan. Which is kind of fun. And then also, there's an episode of Caroline in the City, which is a sitcom set in New York.
Like Sex in the City, but Caroline in the City.
Caroline, yeah. It's Caroline in the City. Okay. And there was an episode where it's about a cartoonist for a newspaper.
Okay.
And in one of the episodes, they make some big dramatic change to the format of this cartoon, and then they say like, "Oh, we'll need to see how people across America enjoy it." And then it suddenly goes, "Meanwhile in Seattle," and then cuts to inside Frasier's apartment, and it's Daphne and Niles sitting at the table, and Daphne says, "Look at this, they've changed Caroline in the City. What's going on here?" And then Niles sits and goes, "I don't get it. What's funny?" And then it just cuts away again.
Okay.
And it's just weird, but it's just them suddenly showing up.
Yeah.
Out of place, which is very funny.
But still, that's a connection.
Which is great. But then we start to go off in that direction. So Caroline in the City, if that's shared with Frasier, is also shared with Friends. Because the main character of Caroline from Caroline in the City appeared in an episode of Friends.
Is her name Caroline?
Her name is Caroline. Yeah. Good. And Friends had a crossover with Mad About You, another sitcom of the time.
Okay.
They had various shared characters. Phoebe from Friends has a twin sister who is one of the main characters in Mad About You.
Okay.
All played by the same actress, played by Lisa Kudrow as well. And Mad About You had a crossover with Seinfeld.
Okay.
So now we've got Seinfeld coming in. We've got Kramer from Seinfeld.
Great
shows up.
90s sitcoms, all in the same universe.
All the 90s sitcoms all showing up all at once.
Yeah.
So, yeah. going off and all that weird stuff over there.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
do you think of that? There's more to come. I've got a lot more.
What do I think about that?
I've got lots of spin-offs going in other directions, but
I like that you can tie them all together. I didn't realize there was so much of a connection between the other end of the sitcoms. So things like Friends and that, and Seinfeld, I've never really been into, never really watched. I didn't realize there was that sort of deeper connection between them all.
yeah.
Or even like crossover episodes or anything. But I like that.
Yeah.
I like that
It's sort of fun that they all overlap.
all the 90s. They could have like a box set of all the episodes.
I
where
know we
everyone
could put all of them
crosses over.
together. Yeah, that'd be quite funny.
Okay.
But yeah,
Next tangent.
as I mentioned,
Where do we go?
going back to Cheers again, so Cheers had a crossover with St. Elsewhere.
Yep.
There was an episode of St. Elsewhere which was set in a hospital in Boston, and it was more serious. I don't think it was a comedy at all. It was just a drama,
Okay.
or at least was more sort of straight-laced. It wasn't like a wacky sitcom.
Yeah.
And then they have an episode where some of the characters go to a bar and they're sitting and talking, and then it's supposed to be playing this contrast where they're sitting talking very somberly about someone. I have to admit, I didn't watch the episode, but they're sitting somberly talking about someone being very unwell, and then contrasted with everyone else in the bar chatting and having a good time and having a laugh, and they're sort of quipping all of these jokes, and it's very sitcom-y dialogue. And of course, the bar is Cheers.
Okay.
And we have appearances by at least Cliff and Carla.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure who else from Cheers appears there, but at least a couple of characters show up there. So St. Elsewhere, Cheers, same universe, that's all connected. But St. Elsewhere has lots of connections with other places, like MASH. A character from MASH appears,
Okay.
or is said to be related to a character in St. Elsewhere. A character from the Bob Newhart show appears in an episode of St. Elsewhere at one point. And then there's also a character from St. Elsewhere called Dr. Roxanne Turner appeared in Homicide: Life on the Street.
I know Homicide.
You've mentioned your Dick Wolf shows. Was that a Dick Wolf show?
No, it was David Simon, the guy who did The Wire, I think.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, no, no. Was it? Was it The Corner he did, maybe? I can't remember.
No.
I can't remember.
But yes, I'll get to that in a minute. That does then tie into Law and Order and the other ones. But also, and quick shout out to a friend of the podcast, another podcast that we should go and support. There's a character in St. Elsewhere who appears in an episode of Oz. And big ups to the Inside Oz podcast.
Inside Oz.
Who are
I've
weird.
seen some support from them recently.
Yes.
Very grateful.
Yeah.
So
They're
if you're
cool.
interested in Oz, and
If
I
you're
believe a retrospective on
I think so.
Oz.
Yeah. From what I've heard of their episodes, I have to admit Oz isn't a show that I've really seen much of. But
I've been meaning to watch it, so
Yeah.
I might watch and listen to the Inside
Yeah.
Oz podcast.
if you're a fan of Oz, go and check them out. So Homicide: Life in the Street features a character called John Munch,
Yes.
who then went on to become a main character in Law and Order.
Mm-hmm.
I've not seen much Law and Order, but I'm assuming the original Law and Order.
I think he's quite he's either recurring or main in Law and Order, and he's recurring, and I think he's main for like the first couple of seasons in SVU, Special Victims Unit.
Yeah, fair enough. And also appeared in The Wire.
He did,
as you mentioned, The
a
Wire.
guest star in The Wire,
And strangely, Arrested Development.
Yeah,
the sitcom.
For some reason.
We're going back into sitcom territory, and then straying wildly back out of sitcom territory, he also appeared in an episode of The X-Files.
Yes, he did.
So The X-Files and Frasier take place in the same universe, which is very funny.
Yep.
Yeah. So we've got that, which is a lot of fun.
Going off from Law and Order, we have the Chicago
Yes.
series, the various Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, all that jazz.
Yeah.
I love them.
There's also
love a Dick Wolf.
apparently a direct connection between Homicide and the Chicago series. There's episodes where a character wins an award. It's called like the upper left ventricle award or something like that. I can't remember, but I saw someone talking about how that award comes up in an episode of Chicago. What's it called? What's the
PD?
hospital at Chicago?
Oh, Med.
Chicago Med. and then also in an episode of Homicide: Life in the Street.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a looser connection, but
that's still there.
That's there. But then, right? So then that's the whole Dick Wolf tangent.
That's the Dick Wolf tangent. Yeah,
that's the Dick Wolf tangent. We've had the Caroline in the City tangent, and now we've got the Dick Wolf tangent. In 1990, there was a TV special that was produced for Earth Day, talking about
Earth.
Talking about the Earth, talking about all of this environmental stuff.
Yeah,
it was kind of, I mean, I suppose people did know about environmental things, but environmental activism was kind of becoming a thing in the 90s, I feel. And Earth Day became a big thing, and they wanted to get public support up for recycling and, you know, doing things that are going to be beneficial to the environment, which is great. And they roped in a lot of people from famous sitcoms, including Cheers. So this Earth Day special connects Cheers. The Golden Girls make an appearance in this. Doogie Howser.
Okay.
From Doogie, what's it called? Doogie Howser MD. The Cosby Show.
Yeah. Okay.
Not great, but The Cosby Show. Married with Children.
Right.
And a show called Murphy Brown, which I have to admit I don't know an awful lot about. That's not really...
I know the name.
That's not really one that's made it over to the UK, to be totally honest. It was unless I'm thinking of completely the wrong show, it was like a police sitcom.
Okay.
So it was like a sitcom set in a police precinct. But Murphy Brown, then we're going off. This is now the Murphy Brown tangent.
Okay.
It had a connection to, again, the Bob Newhart show, which I mentioned.
Yeah.
Connected to Something Elsewhere. But also there was a night that, oh God, now I can't remember what it was called, but they did a night where 4 sitcoms that ran not the same time slot, but like immediately after each other on a Thursday night or whenever it was on the same network, ran a shared plot line between the 4 episodes, tying all of the characters together. So that had Murphy Brown, Can't Hurry Love, High Society, and The Nanny.
Okay.
So all 4 of them are now connected. They're all now part of this. It's all being roped in. I've made just for the record, I've made a flow chart that I'm going to put on our Twitter. So you can see this. That might make it easier to keep track of all of the absolute nonsense that I'm on about. So The Nanny, I have to admit, I've never really watched The Nanny. That's the one with Fran Drescher as the sort of New Yorker kind of socialite nanny for a upper class family.
Right.
The other famous Niles in sitcoms is the character from The Nanny. It was like a butler in The Nanny called Niles.
Okay.
But there was an episode of The Nanny which featured Ray Romano as his character.
As Ray Romano.
Ray Romano is the actor. Ray Barone was the name of the character from...
I thought they were the same.
From Everybody Loves Raymond.
Okay.
Which then also ties into... He had crossovers with The King of Queens.
Yeah.
And another couple of shows that I hadn't really heard of called Becker and Cosby. Another
Becker's,
couple of sitcoms.
Sam Malone.
Oh, is that the one when he's like a politician? No, is that the one when he's the mayor?
Maybe. Yeah, but it's
or is that a more modern one?
Oh my God, what's his name?
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. Jeez, oh,
is that Ted Danson?
Yeah, it's Ted Danson's Becker.
Oh, well, there you go.
Weird.
That is weird. And Cosby, which apparently is not related to the Cosby Show directly.
Okay.
But it's kind of a similar premise. It's like a family sitcom.
With Bill
whatever.
Cosby in it.
It's not. I don't think it is Bill Cosby. Okay. It's not directly connected. Yes, good. We don't want Bill Cosby. But there you go. That's a lot of them connected. And I think one of the weird ones that we're really going to get coming out of this is because of Arrested Development.
Yep.
You got a good laugh out of this when I showed you the flowchart a minute ago.
Yep.
Because of Arrested Development being connected, eagle-eyed viewers of Avengers Infinity War might have noticed that Tobias Funke from Arrested Development, Tobias Funke, appears in Avengers Infinity War, which means that Avengers Infinity War, the Frasier is part of the MCU.
Oh, no.
You know, which is a lot of fun. Frasier's in the MCU.
He sure is.
As is Friends and MASH and the X-Files.
X-Files, Simpsons.
The Simpsons, yeah, because the Simpsons ties into...
Technically has a crossover.
Also has a crossover with Cheers.
It does, kind of.
There's the episode...
Fear of Flying.
Yeah, Marge's Fear of Flying.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, Homer can't go into Moe's, so he's going about different bars, and he goes into Cheers.
Yeah. It's everyone's like fighting Norm.
Yeah.
Because Norm's drunk.
I decided not to include that because I thought that's maybe a bit more... It's not quite such a direct connection.
No, but the connection with Mulder and Scully.
The connection with,
and X-Files.
With the X-Files.
That is a tie-in.
Yeah.
Which means sure there are other Simpsons crossovers.
You've got a bunch of like animated shows get tied in because they had an official crossover with
Family Guy, and Futurama.
Family Guy's crossed over with like American Dad,
and Cleveland Show.
Yeah.
Jeez. The Frasier universe just
keeps expanding, and then
the FCU,
like it ties into older sitcoms as well. Mm-hmm. Like I mentioned, Mad About You, which was in the 90s. But it had a character from the Danny Thomas Show, which is an older sitcom.
Okay.
And it connected to I Love Lucy.
Jeez.
And the Andy Griffith Show. And a character from the Andy Griffith Show appeared in Gary Shandling's show.
Uh-huh.
It's Gary Shandling's Show was apparently what it was called. I didn't know that he had his own show.
Yeah.
Which connected to General Hospital, which I have at least heard of. I've never seen General Hospital. Yeah. And there was a crossover between General Hospital and Twin Peaks. So I Love Lucy and Twin Peaks are also in the MCU, or the FCU.
The FCU.
Yeah. Because Frasier came first. Came out before Iron Man, so it's not the MCU, it's the FCU.
That's true. Tony Stark is in the Frasier universe, not the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm well impressed at the research you put into this. I have to say,
I have to give a big shout out to the crossover wiki, which just has like someone somewhere or various people out there somewhere have just kept track of everything that is tying all of these together.
I think we should try and build that as far as we possibly can.
We probably can build it quite far. A little while ago, something that's become a trend in the past few years is PowerPoint parties. I think I mentioned this to you yesterday.
You've told me about your PowerPoint parties.
PowerPoint parties. They're a lot of fun. You get together with your friends, you get really drunk, and you give a presentation on some topic that you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And I did one a little while ago with my friends, and I did a topic about basically this, but with various horror movies and trying to connect them all together. And I bet somewhere there's a connection that I can find between that shared horror movie universe.
That's your homework. See while you're on holiday.
That's what I'm going to be doing.
You've got to find your connection. Find your connection from the horror universe into the FCU.
Because Twin Peaks and the X-Files are good starts.
Well, I don't think they ever tied together.
I don't think they tie together with each other. Well, not...
Yeah,
unless you
go
go
directly.
Right the way through the Dick Wolf tangent, back into Cheers, and then all the way out, past the Dick Van Dyke Show.
The multi-dick tangent.
Yeah. That was my nickname in high school.
Okay.
Anyway, we're moving on.
I think that's us for today, right?
I think it is. I think we're finished.
That's your homework, right? For the next bonus episode, I want you to find how far this can go.
How far can we get them all together?
And if you can tie in your horror movie universe into the Frasier universe.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible stuff. Love it.